On the eve of the 2023 Ryder Cup, we take you back to September 30th, 2018, the last time the competition took place on European soil. It was at Les Golf National in France. And we're going to go back specifically to that final day singles matches. Justin Thomas, a very controversial figure on this year's Team USA, versus Rory McIlroy, the face of the European team. It was a classic singles match and one that I wish would have resulted in a different outcome for the Americans, but nonetheless, we go back and watch that match again to kind of set the stage for what's to come here in Rome. But better yet, just to look back on these two players who we expect will have an impact on these Ryder Cup teams, not only this year, but years to come.
This is Distant Replay, the podcast that goes back in time to relive all the greatest events that we witnessed in sports. From upsets, to championships, to cultural moments, we discuss it all. Coming up on today's episode.
This is match number 1, representing the United States of America, Justin Thomas. Representing Europe, Rory McIlroy.
Welcome into the Distant Replay podcast. Glad to have you back. I know it's been a little bit of a break since we've been on here, but I am joined now by Chad Anderson. He's filling in. He might be on here a little bit more from time to time. Chad, I know you're a big sports guy. You especially like to go back and watch some of the old stuff, so I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Love old time sports, and I get made fun of by my wife at how many YouTube videos I watch from back in the day. So should fit right in, hopefully, with everybody.
Yeah, you added another one to the list because we went back and watched this 2018 singles matches. So we got geared up for this 2023 Ryder Cup in Rome. I know there's been a lot of talk. I know we're all fired up about turning it on. I don't know if you'll be up well, you might be up at 12:30 Central when they tee off. The 1:30 Eastern's a little bit tougher because that's pretty much into the next night or into the next day for me. So either I got to fully commit and go to bed early or just stay up as late as possible and see how long it can last. But either way, we're fired up. So we wanted to go back and watch this one because I remember this one specifically. We're both Alabama guys, so Justin Thomas obviously has that tie, and we follow him quite a bit. But beyond that, this was a huge match this year because it led off that Sunday singles, and both guys were looking to set the tone. What do you remember about that when I threw it out to you? Hey, let's go back and watch this. What did you remember about not only that match, but just that Ryder Cup?
Yeah, I remember, the U.S. getting off to that quick start early on that Friday, right? And then credit Europe because they came back guns blazing for the next 3 sessions and carried the 10-6 lead going into that Sunday. And it was just one of those again where it's like, man, is the U.S. going to have a shot on European soil? And they were behind the 8 ball. And they started out strong, and then just got behind the 8 ball going into that Sunday and needed Thomas against McIlroy to try to get them going, get them jump started. But I just remember, you go into it, it's like watching a football game and you're down 3 scores going into the fourth quarter. You're just looking for a spark. Golf's obviously different, but still same concept and just getting the mind right. But man, that was tough, just the way they started out in that first session on Friday, and then it just seemed like all the momentum just fell apart after that.
Yeah, I remember that too. I remember this quick start. I didn't remember specifically how the results went, so just to quickly share. So the U.S. won their first 3 matches. Then the final match of the 4 balls in the morning, Patrick Reed and Tiger Woods playing together lost. Molinari and Fleetwood, who played great that entire time. But from that point, the Europeans won that match, the next 4 in the foursomes, so 5 straight. Then the first 3 matches in the morning, 4 balls on Sunday. So they won 8 straight matches. I don't remember it being that lopsided, but pretty wild to think that they went on that big of a run against this team.
Yeah, I do remember. I mean, I didn't remember great detail until we started looking at it in the last day or so and getting ready for this Ryder Cup. But I did remember them having a lead and then getting swept.
Yeah.
But then I didn't remember exactly. I would say it was probably the afternoon foursomes on Saturday is where I kind of blank, because I remember thinking in that Saturday morning four ball going, okay, U.S. needs to bounce back here, and they didn't. And when you get down 4 points in a Ryder Cup, I mean, that's tough. That's just really, really hard to overcome.
Well, let's quickly look at the teams, too, because it's only been 5 years, right? This is only 2 Ryder Cups ago, and things have changed, obviously, with the creation of LIV and guys breaking off. But the European team, so Molinari was 5th in the world at that point. He was the top-ranked European player in terms of their point system to make that team. Justin Rose was ranked second in the world.
Can I just interject right there on Molinari? Remember, this is the guy that may have been one of the most hated players in the world, because just 2 months prior to this Ryder Cup, he took the British Open from Tiger Woods at Carnoustie, which is Tiger had the lead. I think it was going into number 11 or 12 on the back nine of Carnoustie on Sunday, and Molinari was the one who ruined us. But of course the forecast was set up so well for Tiger in the next Masters. But I just remember hating Molinari. Like, I just couldn't stand the guy and had never heard of him even before I heard of him. But, it's just like, who is this guy? And he's ruining our story. And here he is, in the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, he was probably playing. His stretch of golf there from 18 into early 19 was as good as anybody in some time. I mean, he was playing lights out across the board, Not to mention that stretch there against Tiger. So he was top of the game. Then you had your common names. Actually, the rookies on this team: Hatton, who's back; Fleetwood; Rahm, who was just, we knew about him. He was 23 years old, but we knew the expectations were high. Maybe who kind of similar to maybe Aberg this year going into this, but he was a rookie. Alex Noren, and then Thorbjorn Olesen was a rookie. So a couple of those guys have faded off a little bit since that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. John Rahm is the one we talked about before the show. Just the Rahm-Tiger Woods singles match on Sunday.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rahm has panned out very nicely over the last 5 years. But, man, what a statement he made for himself in this Ryder Cup.
And then the 4 captains picks: Paul Casey, Sergio, Ian Poulter, and Henrik Stenson. So those guys probably would be in the mix here if it weren't for LIV.
Is Sergio Europe's Justin Thomas?
Probably. Although Poulter's
another good one. Yeah,
Poulter, yes, but Poulter doesn't have nearly the game. He's just a feisty Ryder Cup guy, right? Like Thomas is a legit star that is just kind of the heartbeat of the team. So maybe Sergio's a better comparison there.
Yeah, Sergio,
Rory,
he's just that annoying guy. Yeah, it should be, yes, but he's isn't.
Yeah, the U.S. side. So Koepka was 3rd in the world. Dustin Johnson was the top-ranked player in the world in this 2018 going in this Ryder Cup. So how far he has fallen. If I would have told you, hey, let's fast forward 5 years, Chad, Dustin's not going to be on the team at the next Ryder Cup. You would have laughed at me.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that DJ has fallen that far. And I know he's got the LIV money and everything, but just kind of fallen in general. He did grab his Masters, his COVID Masters, in November of 2020. And there was nothing that should take away from that win. But yeah, just his consistency and just overall for the game of golf completely faded over the last 5 years.
Yeah, and then you got Patrick Reed, obviously Bubba Watson on that team as well. Webb Simpson, Bryson, Phil, Tiger, and Tony Finau, who had a great year as a rookie. It's crazy to me thinking of Ricky Fowler's career. I would have guessed that he wasn't on this team because he since this Ryder Cup, he's had quite the roller coaster ride. Like pretty much fell off, and then he's back again. So like he didn't miss anything in terms of playing Ryder Cups in Europe, but it feels like he's had a heck of a career arc since that last Ryder Cup.
And if you're comparing, a European guy and a U.S. guy. For Ian Poulter, I would actually compare Patrick Reed. That's who my synonym would be on that.
Probably.
Because Reed, I think, is a better golfer, but Reed is that annoying guy. Even the Americans hate Reed. But Reed is that guy that everybody, he drives them nuts.
Yeah, there's no question about it. So that's how I'll play it out. And Tony Finau with DeChambeau and Justin Thomas were rookies. So this was JT's first Ryder Cup, and he obviously made a huge statement, which still probably carries a lot of weight to this day, and part of the reason why he's there for this one. So that's kind of how it's set up. Of course, if you remember back to this Ryder Cup in France, Les Nationaux, they set it up really tight with thick rough right off the fairway, because the Americans, at the time and in general, known for hitting it long but not as accurate, versus the way the Europeans can kind of go through the course a lot more pinpoint and targeted. So that was a huge advantage for them. Do you think the Europeans, this has kind of been discussed this week, do you think the Europeans provide a better home course advantage than when this is over in America?
Yeah, as far as like the rowdy and the crowd, the atmosphere, or the course,
both.
or
I think
which
all
angle?
together when you kind of just take it all into account.
I think Europeans are crazier. And not to get off topic from golf, but you and I, being Alabama people, we always look at SEC college football, right? Like, some of the most passionate fans in the entire world are Southeastern Conference college football fans. Well, as ashamed as I am to say it, we don't hold a candle to European soccer fans.
Right.
Okay, like
Football,
that is
football fans.
Yeah, European football. My bad. Yeah, that is a next level intensity. And so I think that Europeans are like LSU fans on steroids. Like, they just take it to this level. So I would just say atmosphere and truly feeling like you're on the road, advantage to Europe.
Yeah.
Also, too, the European guys play in America all year long. So while people love, say, Rory when he's playing in a regular PGA event, it's a little bit different when you're going there for the, second, third time all year long. Mm-hmm. And the other thing there is, and I was going to ask you this, is do you enjoy like watching it when it's a course like it is this year in Rome, or from 2018 in France? Or to me, when I watch European golf, I only want to watch links golf.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to see them play a version of Whistling Straits over in Europe, or, Quail Hollow in Europe. I want to see the links course, whichever one it is, but that's just my preference.
I agree with that. I feel that way more towards, some of the tournaments rather than the Ryder Cup. To me, I think just when the fans are on the course and everything, I forget about that a little bit more and just pay attention more to the shot by shot and just the atmosphere itself rather than the course itself. But I think that's fair. But, we've seen a few courses like that now that you could pick them up and put them in, the U.S. and it would feel much different, right? But
yeah,
you have the European blue and yellow everywhere, which makes all the difference. So let's get into this matchup. So it was Sunday going in. U.S. was down 10-6, sending out, of course, Justin Thomas first, the rookie, getting the nod to go out first off. And a bit of a surprise maybe, but now we've come to see that he's, a bit of the heartbeat, maybe becoming the captain, so to speak, of this team every time they play, versus Rory. And I think the Europeans wanted to go out and just say, we want to get our best guy out there, go ahead and get a point, and just put the U.S. away. We've got all the momentum. Let's go ahead and finish this off. Now, when we go back and watch, and I'm going to drop the link in the show notes so you can go back and watch the YouTube video as well from the Ryder Cup's YouTube channel. I don't know that there is a tougher shot, obviously, in golf than the first tee of a Ryder Cup, whether it be on Friday when it first starts, or on Sunday. I think Saturday is still tough, but it's still a little less chaotic. But when you watch this one and you see just the surroundings, I think with the energy that the Europeans had from the past 2 days and the lead up into this, the momentum they had, Rory going out versus a rookie, I don't know, how Justin gets up there and hits a perfect tee shot down the middle, but he finishes off this hole and makes a birdie. And on top of Rory, I would even argue, if we had a chance to talk to Justin, and I might, if I ever see him again, this might be the question I ask him. This has to be one of his top holes he's ever played in his lifetime. On that stage, to go out and birdie to take a one-up lead, it's a remarkable accomplishment, and just kind of shows the guts that this guy has.
Yeah, you watch that hole, and I try to put myself in that position, right? Like, I've asked my uncle this, who used to try to play professionally, and I would just say, hey, guys putting for the win at the U.S. Open, are they actually nervous? Or if they're in the fairway on 18 and they know they got to make par to win, are they actually nervous? And he said, oh, yeah. He said, those guys feel it just like you and I would feel it. And I kind of laugh because I can't stand on my member guest tee with 8 people around, and not feel a little nervous that I'm like gonna top a driver or something. It's like, oh my God, I can't imagine doing it in front of 10, 20, 50,000 people. And it's also so hyper focused because you're the first match.
Yeah.
Your team is down 4. You're on the road. There's just all these things going on. I'm the same with you. And if you're JT and you're playing this hole, I mean, think about it. You drive it down the middle of the fairway. Then Rory drives it 10 yards past you.
Yep.
Great. Crap. The home guy just outdrove me, Then you hit your approach shot. Hey, not bad. Hit it right center of the green, 25 feet for birdie. That's a good spot on number 1 on the road, first group, first match. Rory comes up, hits it into 10 feet.
Yeah.
It's like, my God, I probably, if I'm Justin, could not have scripted the first 2 shots any better. And then Rory just one-ups you on both of them. So the fact that he comes in, drains the birdie putt, and then shifts all the pressure to McIlroy immediately, that putt was so massive, in my opinion, even though JT, really didn't have a good run on the front 9 for the next few holes, but just that putt had to at least show him, okay, I'm not going to come out here and get owned by their number 1 guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in this. I can go head to head with their best. I'm good. And on the flip side, if you're a golfer, would you want to be the guy that putts first, like JT there? Or would you want to be the guy that putts second? Because anytime in like football and in baseball, it's like, no, I want to be the home team. No, I defer. But in golf, I think it's different. Because if you're JT and you do make the putt, even though you're 10 feet further away, like all the pressure just shifts immediately to the next guy. And it's do or die on that one stroke. So I'm just kind of curious. You play golf. I mean, would you rather be JT 10 feet farther away or Rory 10, 15 feet out, but it's not a gimme? But when a guy makes it on top of you, like that's a huge mental shift.
Oh yeah. I'd rather be the first guy to go. I feel like there's less pressure there, especially if the guy does make it, right? Because it gives you a lot more pressure on that shorter putt. And I think Rory kind of felt the effects of that on that one. And then, to that point, I think Rory is in that boat all day, right? I mean, he has some nice looks all day and had a chance because, as you said, yeah, Justin won the first hole, but he lost, I think, 3 of the next 4. So he was all of a sudden 2 down. And I think that just kind of was demoralizing in general for the Americans at that point. But he bounces back, obviously rallies and kind of goes back and forth. But Rory, when you go back and watch this, it's like watching him in any other major in the last 10 years, right? It's like the guy is lights out, drives it great, hits great approach shot, great wedge game for the most part, and he's usually got pretty good looks, but the putter just lets him down consistently on some putts that are just so makeable. And it was the same case here. You're watching it going, I felt kind of bad for Rory because I've been we pull for him. He's a great guy, great ambassador for golf. He's been so close so much, but when you watch stuff like this, you're like, I don't know that he'll ever win a major again because every time on the stage, he does the exact same thing.
Yeah. Well, if you look at like just his putting and then his just PGA track record. So we always have Rory on this pedestal. But if you go back and look at some of his statistics and where he's been or where he's won, I've got it here. He hasn't won a tournament, okay, by more than 1 shot since the Tour Championship in 2019, other than 1 2-shot victory in the Canadian Open in 2022.
Yeah.
Now, golf is one of those things like it's not easy to blow people out. It doesn't happen. Usually in a tournament, you win. There are people that are hanging around or close by. But as good as Rory is and as good as we make him to be, and when you see what people like Scheffler do or what Tiger does, and people put Rory in those same categories, or they used to,
Yeah.
It's just kind of amazing that you go back and look, and he's really not a dominant force that you think he is. And he's got his win, so he's won. But I'm saying he doesn't really like dominate or step on the throat. He leaves the door open. You look at St. Andrews last year. What was it? 37 putts in the final round.
Yeah.
And again, just another example. He didn't even win that one. Lost to Cam Smith. So, yeah, Rory is it's like unbelievable, but also sad because he has the game to be like top 3 to 5 greatest golfers ever.
Yeah.
But statistically, he probably won't ever get there. And it's a shame because he just doesn't finish the job sometimes.
And we can even fast forward to that final hole to kind of wrap it all up. And if you have something to add in the middle of this, because it's kind of back and forth and just overall just solid golf. A couple of big shots by both players, obviously. But you get down to 18, and I didn't remember 18 completely. I remember JT kind of closing the door with a great approach shot, but I've forgotten that Rory went in the bunker, couldn't get it out of the bunker, and then hit it in the water, and then like just had a shot for a bogey from like 150 out, and he tried to hit it to try to make it to put pressure, but at that point Justin was like 15 feet away for birdie, and it was pretty much over. But I've had forgotten how he basically crapped the bed on that final hole there.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he did get a bad break in the bunker because
he did.
Did he hit 3-wood or driver? I couldn't remember.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, but either way, you're not expecting that to plug in the upslope, which is basically what happened. Kind of had a fried egg towards the top of the bunker. So, on a fairway bunker, you're expecting it to at least roll back down, sit in the middle, par, bogey, worst case scenario in that situation. I mean, the lie was so bad, he tries to come out sideways. I think the announcer said he had 22 yards to the fairway. They were wondering if he could even get it that far. And he hit it, 2 yards, and it rolled back down to the bottom.
Yeah.
So he was kind of screwed from the very beginning. And it was just from that one swing, that one drive, whether it was a 3-wood or driver. Going back, one thing that stood out was actually on number 13 was Rory missed a putt to win a hole that was a pretty easy putt. And this was after JT, I believe, had missed one. And so this was to have the hole or to win the hole, and they ended up having. And there was a spectator that shouted out, and the accent sounded American, but shouted out, typical Rory.
Yeah.
Like those 2 words. And that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So not
a lot's changed.
So the reputation had already started to take effect.
Yeah.
That he couldn't do it even in 2018.
Yeah, it's tough to watch, but Justin finishes it off with a 1-up lead and kind of gives the U.S. some momentum there to start the day, but it wouldn't really matter. The U.S. did start well. Brooks would go and have the next one. Justin Rose lost to Webb Simpson, but then from that point forward, it was pretty much all Europeans across the board. The lone bright spot, I think, being Tony Finau that day, destroyed Tommy Fleetwood and just overall had a great kind of debut as a Ryder Cup member. But the U.S. would go on and lose that one, 17.5 to 10.5. The crazy thing about that, obviously, this was a heck of a match and probably the best singles match of the day, I think, overall, and maybe one of the better single matches we've seen in a while. Tiger versus Rahm was another big one that day, right? You remember that one? That was kind of Rahm's not necessarily a coming out party, but is one where you thought, okay, as an American, you're like, okay, Tiger's taking on this rookie. He's going to kind of just kind of overpower him and just intimidate him into a win. And then Rahm stood up to him, and that was kind of the turning point. Because if Tiger wins that match, all of a sudden you won 3 of the first 4, and then Finau right behind him, you got 4 points on the board before the Europeans do. Then all of a sudden it's a huge match. But that was pretty much the one that put it away.
Yeah, if Tiger had won against Rahm, they've got 4.5 of the first 5 points. So it's tied.
Yeah.
It's 10.5. And, that's one of those things where if you're the guys trailing, meaning the groups coming up the rear, it's like, man, you look up and go, okay, game on. Because if you're Bryson going last, right, you're just kind of out there like, is my match even going to matter? I may
Right.
be done by the 8th hole.
Yeah.
But then you're watching the scoreboard and you see it, and not that the Americans would have won, but I think Tiger winning that match, or the overall standings being tied, would have just maybe set a little bit of a different tone the
Yeah.
rest of the way. But also, too, just as good as that would have been for the U.S., think of how bad that hurt because of the name Tiger Woods getting beat.
Yeah.
Like, if Brooks loses or Tony loses or even Justin loses, does anybody really flinch? Like, they'd still
Right.
go, hell yeah, it's 3.5 to 1.5 in the first 5. But when your guy Tiger loses
To a rookie.
to a rookie, that's a little bit of a gut punch and
Yep.
a mental blow.
Yeah, when the way it played out too, Tony had closed out his match, so the U.S. got to a 10.5 to 9.5 at one point before Spieth lost 5 and 4 to Olesen, and then Tiger. So it's kind of how it played out, and the rest of its history. But the worst part about that whole Ryder Cup was Tiger went 0 and 4 that week. He had the worst record of anybody in that Ryder Cup.
Yeah, that's surprising. Just his name, his clout, obviously. I mean, if you're not a golfer, you know who Tiger Woods is.
Yeah.
And that was something, and he was a captain's pick and had to do, he may have been injured some that year. I don't remember, but that had to be a situation where coming off of the British Open and playing well kind of just that summer and being in contention in a couple of spots. But yeah, that was surprising.
It was indeed. So Europe won that one. So now the U.S. looking for its first win on European soil in 30 years. We hear it beaten into our brains the past week as we get ready for Rome. I guess a couple things real quick. Were you surprised by that JT pick? Take a neutral stance. Not Alex, an Alabama guy. Were you surprised by that pick? And do you think he'll make a big impact this week?
I actually was surprised by the pick. And it's not that JT's not capable. And I forgot the name of the tournament, but the one he just played in recently, the Gala won. So he proved there, not that field was loaded with the top 25 players in the world, but he at least proved that, hey, I'm beating guys I should beat.
Yeah.
And that was the case there, right? Like, he is beating people he should be beating. So that was nice to see, especially leading up to this. I know he's worked on a couple of things. He is a grinder. He's very good mentally. I actually had the pleasure of going to Royal Liverpool this year and watching the first 2 days of the British Open, or the Open. And when I was there, the first day I followed JT on the front 9. And for obvious reasons, I didn't follow him on the back 9. But sorry, JT.
Yeah.
But yeah, he shot 81? 82.
Yeah. So bad.
It was something. It was low 80s that he shot. And so for him to do that, like, you're out of the tournament, right? You're done. You have no chance. And he came back the next day and shot, it was either 71, 72 in much tougher conditions than day one. So to me, that just kind of proves, like, this guy's a grinder. Like, he fights, he claws. Maybe he's not having the best year he's ever had, but the track record, the mindset, the attitude, the spark, the fire, he's buddies with a lot of those guys. And I don't mean just like buddies, we're all on the same tour. Like, he's extremely tight with a few of those guys. I understand. I was still surprised that they went ahead and did it and went out on the limb, because they knew Zach Johnson would face a lot of backlash for the pick. But, I'm okay with it because of what he can bring to the table. If he gets hot this weekend, he'll be annoying as hell for the European crowd, because he'll let them know.
He's that guy that I think both teams didn't want to see him show up this year, right? Like, that's kind of how he is. So be curious to see. He's not going to be playing the first match, the first session with Jordan Spieth. They're both taking a break for that one. I'm sure we'll see him in the afternoon session for that. But quick prediction before we get out of here. Do you think the U.S. will do it or not?
Unfortunately, I don't see how. Europe is just loaded. I mean, golf is golf, but the way Victor Hovland's playing, and just some of the names with Fleetwood and Rahm and, I mean, it's still Rory going out there, even though he doesn't always quite finish.
Yeah.
U.S. hasn't done well on European soil, so I'll unfortunately go with Europe on this one, and I will say 16-12.
Well, about 2 months ago, I took the U.S. like minus 160 because I felt really good about where they were, all the live stuff happening. But then since that point, the U.S. has trended down. Like all the Europeans have been trending up. You got Aberg that's coming through is like this new superstar that we're about to see take over. And I don't feel nearly as good about it, but I still think they overall have the better team. I don't necessarily like the first pairings that were sent out, but I think they are the overall better team. And if they can just get some just solid play out of the kind of that middle to bottom, and obviously if Justin obviously contributes a couple of points, they'll be in really good shape. But I have my doubts about the bottom 3 or 4 on that European team. Obviously the top can do what they do, but Rory still is who Rory is. He'll get you a couple points, but he's probably going to lose 1 or 2 that they need as well. So Hovland's the big guy this year. If he keeps playing like he's playing, I think the Europeans will probably win. But
hitting hole-in-ones on par 4s.
Yeah. By the way, that was the second shot on that hole. By the way, he is the second ball. So that nobody talked about that, but I saw one person mention it. There was a second ball. So still
So
very
what did he do
impressive.
at the first? He hit it out of bounds.
I don't know. Probably just hit a couple. He probably laid up or something, then tried to hit the green or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, still very impressive. All right.
So what you're saying is you could do that if you had enough shots from the box.
No. I'm not saying that at all, but it's less impressive than it was made to be, but still a heck of a shot. All right, well, we'll get out of here on that note. I know we'll be watching the Ryder Cup later on. Appreciate you coming on. If you have subscribed to the show, please do so. Trying to roll out more episodes. I know I've said it before, but trying to be more consistent. Find us on YouTube as well. Subscribe to us there. We'd appreciate that. And again, if you have any games plus true crime that you want to hear about, let us know as well. All right, got to get out of here. Chad, thanks for being a part of the show today, and we'll do it again soon.
Appreciate it.